manufacturing. So in the next 20 minutes, I'll be sharing some details about how standards are impacting additive manufacturing, and how we can use standards for industrializing additive manufacturing, and how the research and development can support it. So I'll be giving a small introduction about ASTM standards, so why we need these standards, and how we can implement these additive manufacturing standards into AM ecosystem, and how we can further speed up the standardization process by research and development. So why we need standards? Why we need AM additive manufacturing standards? So essentially, additive manufacturing is no more prototyping technology. It is now more like an industrialization, into an industrialization mode, which means we need specialized, well-defined procedures to do additive manufacturing activities. So before going into those details, let me introduce what ASTM is and what we are doing from a standard perspective. So ASTM International is an international standard development body, and we have standards from oil and gas industry to construction and spread into wide varieties of industries, and we have more than 12,800 standards so far developed and used widely across the world. It's not based on the US alone. You can see more than 60% of the standards are currently used outside the US, and it's applied in more than 90 plus industry sectors. And ASTM International have more than 30,000 committee members, and we leverage the technological know-how of these committee members for developing the standards. And we have more than 140 different technical committees who are working on developing multiple standards. So this is a very snapshot of what ASTM is. As we move on, I can share you much more details. So yeah, when it comes to additive manufacturing standards, like any other technology for additive manufacturing as well, we need standards to move through. So now almost in all industry sectors, additive manufacturing is at the tipping point of adoption. So we need standards, we need qualification processes, we need certification. So what standards can do is it can ensure process control, can give you an assurance of your quality, it can define different levels of criticality, it can reduce the risk quite a bit, and by that it can reduce the cost and drive the larger adoption of additive manufacturing. Another two important aspects is to impart access, and it can also provide support for certification and quality assurance. So when we look into additive manufacturing standards, one of the important aspects was to see what are all the standards needed to drive the industry. So additive manufacturing standard is called Additive Manufacturing Standardization Collaborative. It was a collaborative effort between ANSI and America Makes. So they categorized different areas in additive manufacturing into design, process, qualification, non-destructive evaluation, and maintenance. And they found more than 90 plus priority, 51 with medium priority, and 24 with low priority. And out of all, they also found that more than 65 such gaps needs R&D or research and development to move further. So filling those standard gaps are not easy because, as you know, additive manufacturing is a relatively new technology, and it has boomed in the past few years. So we don't have enough data to look upon, and is from all the people involved in it, and multiple organizations are working on the standards. That could cause potential duplication as well as overlap of what we are working on. And we also need research and development as well as resources to do validation experiments. So these are all the things which limits the standard if you look into the current additive manufacturing standard landscape, there are about 25 plus standards published by ISO and ASTM together, and there are another 50 plus standards currently under development. You can categorize these available standards into 3-4 buckets, like general additive manufacturing standards, then application specific standards, feedstock material standards, process and equipment related standard, the and organizations are also actively involved in developing these AM standards specifically for their industry sectors. When it comes to certification, based on an analysis before, one of the major hurdle that additive manufacturing industrialization is going to face is in terms of certification. If you see for the next 10 years, certification of finished parts and products, then quality and standardization of material, and the quality of dumpling blocks that we need to face when we look into the industrialization of additive manufacturing. And this can be addressed at different levels. It can be from international bodies, national agencies, different end users, and organizations like that. But for certifications, the most important thing that we need is the standards. So at the moment, there are no broad certification frameworks, even though there are certification programs started, and it is not complete. It is not prevent certification. Any organization want to provide such kind of an end-to-end solution, definitely we need enough standards which can address So what to help accelerate additive manufacturing in all industries? It's not specific to aerospace or specific to medical, but it consider all different industry for manufacturing. And the additive manufacturing footprint at ASTM time, the first additive manufacturing standard committee started. F42 and ASTM also have collaborative agreements from different standard development organizations, and one of the notable one is the partnership SDO with ISO 261, which just happened back in 2013. And in fact, this collaboration was a strategic one because it drove the additive manufacturing standard development process in a much faster pace. 25 standards out right now, and in addition to the collaboration with different standard development organizations, ASTM also have collaborative efforts with the NIST, FAA, TA, MMPDS, and organizations like that. So a quick fact about this ASTM F42 committee, which makes standard development, is that, as I said before, it started in 2009, and we have more than 800 persons involved in it. And 25 plus standards has been so far published, and 50 plus is under development. So if you see the structure of these ASTM F42, it comes off multiple committees called test methods, design, material and process, environment, health and science, applications, and data. So data is the latest one added to this. You can see who are all the one who lead this effort. So these are all the different subcommittees, and all the subcommittees are led by industry leaders or from here institutes. So all these committees right now start from F4201 to F4207. These are all the ones which are currently active, and F4208, as I said before, is the new committee started for data. And this is the standard development structure followed by ASTM and ISO together. So this is developed by ISO ASTM as a roadmap towards development of standards in the coming years. So you can see there are 3 tiers in developing the standard. The first one is the general or the top level standards, which means it can be applied across any industry, across any process. So it is process agnostic or material agnostic. When you go down further, it becomes category based more towards the process and equipment and finished parts. And at the top level, you can see that the standards are developed for very specific applications or very specific industry. This is the approach that the ASTM and ISO is following in developing the standards. And an important aspect here is, apart from other subcommittees, there's a very important subcommittee under ASTM that is called F47 needed different subsections to this committee, ranging from A to product. So we also add another subsection to this based on the input from the industry sector. So this is driven by the industry. So if you see these subsections, all these subsections are industry, and they know the real need for the industry. So into an AM process chain. We know that manufacturing process is a complex one. It is similar to any other technology, but it is complex because of the involvement in multiple stages of the additive manufacturing process, and each stage of the additive manufacturing process got potential variabilities, whether it is design or feedstock or material and process or post-processing. We need tighter control in all these stages. So if you see the standards currently under development, all those standards which are under development or which are published already, they are all focusing on each and every stages of this additive manufacturing process. So here it's again a snapshot of different standards currently published. So most of the standards you are seeing here is already published, and if you can see different standard, I put it in different buckets. To start with, if you're an experienced person or new to the additive manufacturing industry, the first standard that you should look upon is the ASTM, ISO ASTM 52990. Common standardization techniques that you can have in forecast. Produced using additive manufacturing. Similarly, for environmental health and science, there are two standards currently under development yet to publish. These standards talks about what are the safety requirements that you should follow within an additive manufacturing facility. Similarly, for equipment and software, there's a standard called 52915, which talks about the additive manufacturing file format. So these are all some of the typical examples of the standards currently available, which can be used for different phases of your additive manufacturing process. And again, when it comes to material, there are some material specific standards or material specifications, particularly for additive manufacturing materials. So you can see all these materials, like titanium or Inconel, they are all having material specs in our conventional manufacturing, but the specs that you can see here is basically targeted to additively manufactured components. So when you are looking for, let's say, a finished part in cobalt chrome, then you should look for ASTM F4213 to see what are all the standard specification that you need to meet when you produce a part using cobalt chrome. So these are all the material standards right now available under ASTM. Then qualification is another important aspect. So we have a lot of standards out there, but how we are going to use these standards for a meaningful purpose, for a qualification of your facility. So this is a list of standards which you can consider to qualifying your process. For example, can have ISO ASTM 52930. This is about to publish, maybe within 1 or 2 months, you may be seeing the publication of the standard. It's currently under ballot. And another one is ASTM 52941, that is to check the system performance and reliability. This is also going to publish soon. Now it is in a draft international standard form. And 52904, which I mentioned before, can be used for qualifying your process itself, and that standard is already published. And ISO ASTM 52902, the standard is about to assess the capability of your machine by using test artifacts. And one more standard that you can look for is 52920. It is not yet published. It is a new work item proposal that is basically on qualification principles for an additive manufacturing site. So if you have these 3 to 4 standards in the beginning, I think this is the first step towards qualifying your process in your premises. So now we move on to the collaborative part of additive manufacturing. So we have seen the standard development side of thing and how we are going to drive the standard development with some collaborative efforts. So keeping that in mind, ASTM has come out with a unique activity called Additive Manufacturing Center of Excellence. So what the Center of Excellence do is it bridges the gap between standard development and the collaborative activities. So we know that standard development is a consensus-based process and it takes long time since we don't have enough data out. There are delays in getting it done. So main aim for the ASTM COE is to support that part. So ASTM COE supports the standard development activity through research and development by collaborating with ASTM COE partners. Then so there's a clear distinction between the ASTM F42 Committee as well as ASTM COE. So ASTM F42 Committee is purely for making consensus-based standard in collaboration with ISO TC 261 at this moment. And ASTM AM COE is mainly for providing a platform for collaborative partnerships with the different stakeholders from the ASTM F42 committee members as well as from the AM community in general. So ASTM AM COE provides a link between the ASTM F42 committee with the rest of the AM community. And these are some of the research activities that we are currently progressing with to support different standard development activities. You can see that we have design, data and modeling, feedstock, AM processes and AM testing and qualification. All those things are linked to some of these committees like F42 on test methods and or F42 on design and things like that. So all these research activities are in one way or other support the standard development activities. So if you see here, this is a typical example of how the past research has supported the standard development. So we have 2 rounds of projects so far completed, and if you see, these projects are directly impacting the existing standard as well as it addresses the standard gaps. So we can see all these institutions over here. So these are all the partners for research and development for additive manufacturing with ASTM. So MTC is our partner at UK, NAMIC is the partner at Singapore, it covers the Asia part as well, and we have University of Auburn, EWI, and NASA, they're all the partners back in US. So with their support, we are doing this research and development and make sure that this can directly impact or drive the standard development activities. And so we have the 2 ways of supporting the research and development. So one is called a request for ideas, which means it is basically from the ASTM committee members. So once we have those ideas, we will you will take that ideas and do research projects with our partners, with our AM COE partners. The next one is it's a new one that's called Call for Project. This is now open to the entire AM community. So who is having an idea a research idea which can support towards standard development, you can propose a project, and if it is in alignment with the standard development process, then we will fund that particular project. And you can get involved with ASTM in multiple ways. One is, as I said, through these R&D projects, and you can also be a part of the work item development, which can be initiated for the ASTM F42 standard development. And there are a lot of COE events happening, and there are other mechanisms as well which we are exploring to have a better engagement with or better collaboration with the AM community. So these are some of the activities that do at ASTM. We have webinar series, we have a virtual workshop happening, snapshot workshop. All these activities are mainly to disseminate the knowledge that we are gaining from the R&D activities, as well as the research and development happening at different R&D organizations in US and elsewhere in the world. So as a summary, what I want to say here is that standards are key for industrialization of AM. It is key for regulations for wider adoption of the technology, and we need relevant high quality standards that regulators and certification bodies can adopt with high level of confidence. And we also need the involvement of additive manufacturing stakeholders in standard development process to address the real needs, because that's a key point, because only people who are in the industry know what is the real requirement. And for accelerated standard development, R&D initiatives are very crucial.